everybody, my name is Amanda, and I'm going to share with you my experience with the Paragard, or in other words, the copper IUD. I'm currently 29 years old. I've been married for 2 years, and I was looking for a form of birth control that would allow me not to have the hormones, but also be able to not wear condoms. So the Paragard was something that I chose for that reason. So I've been on birth control since I was 18, and at first I tried the Yasmin, which is all estrogen, primarily progesterone and estrogen pill. I tried that for probably about 5 years-ish, and when I turned 23, my cousin was on her honeymoon, and she had a bad experience. She was also on the birth control pill and ended up having a mini stroke or a blood clot. And she was okay, but she took a blood test and the doctors told her she had factor V Leiden, which is a hereditary blood clotting disorder. So that prompted me to take a blood test and, of course, confirm that I had factor V Leiden as well. So my doctor advised me to get off the estrogen birth control pill, and my only other option would be to wear condoms or go on another form of a birth control pill or form of birth control pill. So I took a break for a while as I didn't need the pill. I wasn't involved in a romantic relationship at the time, but I quickly became involved in a romantic relationship and wanted a form of birth control that was safe for me. So I tried the mini pill, which is a progesterone only pill, and did okay with that. Was on that for about 3.5 years. And then, recently I took kind of a second look at birth control pills and thought, maybe it would be helpful for me to get off birth control, hormonal birth control for that matter. I did have some minor symptoms with the mini pill, which includes dry skin. I had my sex drive wasn't really up there, but nothing too extreme, just the regular moodiness or my period and that kind of thing, but my period was almost non-existent. So I did want to see how I would do without the birth control and the hormones in my body. So I decided to stop and just use condoms for a while, and to be honest, that wasn't really something I like to do. I don't really like condoms, especially when I'm in a marriage, and it takes kind of the spontaneity out of things. So I took a break from the pill, and my sister-in-law actually told me about her sister being on the copper IUD, the Paragard, and told me a little bit more about it. I did my research, and at that point, I was open to anything, and something that was non-hormonal and can last for up to 10 years. So the Paragard is a form of birth control that can last up to 10 years, and while I heard it doesn't make your periods much lighter, it does kind of, eventually adapt to your body, is from what I understand. So after some research and talking to other people and watching videos like these, I decided to get the copper IUD inserted. I made my appointment. Before my appointment, I did hear stuff about people having issues with pain during the insertion process, and given that I have never had children, this was something that I considered doing. So I took 600 milligrams of Advil before the appointment, about an hour to 45 minutes, or 45 minutes to an hour before the appointment. So I took 3 Advil. And what I'm about to share next might be too much information for some people, so feel free to stop here. But being that I knew I was sensitive to pain as it is, I wanted to make sure I had the Advil ready to go for me. So I was a little scared going in, and the doctor made me feel a little bit more relaxed. She was telling me what she was doing. The first thing she did was just kind of told me a little bit more about it. You know, are you sure you want to go through this? And I said, yes, I want another birth control pill or birth control option. I want to try this out. So she had me relax in the chair, in the stirrups, and she first put this instrument in that measured my uterus. So that wasn't too bad. She let me know what she was doing, which made me feel more comfortable and in control. And then she stuck something in next, which is supposed to open up the cervix, and that was pretty painful. I kind of felt like it was a pretty dull, like a strong, dull period cramp, and it was, you know, something I've felt before, but it was a little more intense than usual, and so that was painful, and I was kind of, you know, worried about what was to come next. So she let me know that she was going to be putting the Paragard in and that I would feel a cramp. She put it in and opened it, and it was very painful. I'm going to be honest, it was like a strong, very strong period cramp. And while I didn't think it was like some other people described it, like very, very, very painful, it was pretty uncomfortable. And I felt that strong pain for probably about, you know, like 5 minutes. I was laying back, just kind of breathing, and it kind of subsided after a while. And I got up out of the where I was sitting, and felt a little lightheaded, and told my doctor, and she said, just lay down, put your knees up. She got me a washcloth for my head, and the pain quickly went away after that. And then after about 10 minutes, and then I, you know, left the office, still feeling kind of moderately crampy. I had to wear a pad because she said I might start bleeding after the insertion. So I went about my day and went shopping. You know, the cramps did start to intensify, and luckily I had Advil, which didn't make it too unbearable, but you know, I'm the type of person that likes to just do stuff, and I have a hard time sitting around. So from that point on, I was kind of crampy and, you know, moderately crampy throughout the day, but had my Advil handy and took it regularly as I needed to. Later that day, I got home. My husband brought me dinner, was watching movies in bed, went to bed early, felt okay. Woke up, felt well rested the next morning, a little mild cramping and spotting. So that was to be expected. But what happened next, I was kind of not prepared for. And again, I'm sharing my experience with you because this is my experience, although I know people out there have had great experiences with the Paragard. But what I didn't expect was the emotional component of it all. I woke up, started, you know, had a cup of coffee, watched TV. You know, after I was just resting, and after about a while on the couch, I started to experience racing thoughts. And it was really unusual for me because I've never experienced something like that before, where I just felt like kind of my anxiety starting to intensify. And I was sitting on the couch next to my husband, and I'm like, I just feel really out of it. Like my thoughts are kind of racing, and, you know, I don't feel like myself, and I couldn't concentrate on anything. It was really kind of strange. I felt out of control. And we were talking about something, and I was like, I can't even focus on this right now. I have no mental space for this. And I consider myself someone that is kind of higher on the anxiety scale once in a while, but never unmanageable. So I was definitely, this is something that I've never experienced. And, you know, so I texted my sister-in-law and asked her if she or anyone she knows with the Paragard has experienced anything like this. And maybe I thought, you know, this is my body's way of adjusting to it. So I gave it some time. My husband and I went out for brunch, and you know, we were talking again, and then I just felt this wave of anxiety coming up, and I was like, I don't feel like myself. This is really strange. And I almost got to the point where I felt like I was about to have a panic attack, and there was nothing that set it off. It was just kind of strange. So it was never anything I've experienced. It was very uncomfortable, very unbearable for me, and so we left, and I went home to relax and just did some laundry and like watched TV, took it easy. The thoughts were kind of coming in waves, like the racing thoughts and anxiety and just overall like almost like a state of panic, and I was not used to this. So later that day I called my doctor. It was a Saturday, so I got the doctor that was on call, and she said that the Paragard is not something, the Paragard doesn't cause anything emotional, or it doesn't cause any increased anxiety or racing thoughts. There's no studies on it. So that made me even more worried and frustrated, because I felt like it was hopeless. I felt like, what's going on? Like, is this me? Is it, you know? But something inside of me, intuitively, I knew that, you know, this wasn't me. It was something else, and it had to. I had a feeling that it had to do with the Paragard being in my body. So I, you know, took it easy. I was considering just getting something from my doctor to make my thoughts go down. And I, you know, I've never been one to use medication, but she did prescribe me a low dose of something so I can kind of deal with the anxiety. So I went to the drugstore, got that, and it helped a little bit. So it helped a little bit because I was feeling anxious. Went to bed, woke up the next day. We had something to do, so didn't feel like I needed any of the medication. I was a little bit better, but still kind of in this constant state of anxiety. And I knew it was off balance for me, and it wasn't right. So, you know, the next day felt a little bit better with the anxiety. Maybe my body's just adjusting. But then the following day I felt a little bit more like, not like myself, anxious, a little bit panicky. Went to work, looked up online, you know, Paragard, copper, increased copper in body. And sure enough, there's things that came up, again, not from, you know, accredited sites or anything like that, but people sharing their experiences. And I watched some YouTube videos as well that had women sharing their experiences with the copper IUD. And a lot of times these symptoms they didn't recognize these symptoms wait until they've had it for about 6 months. And for me, it was right away. And I was like, this is not right. So I saw a video on YouTube about somebody taking zinc to balance the copper. So I got a zinc supplement and vitamin E. Again, depends on your body and what you feel. But for me, that was a little bit of a help, but something still felt off. And I found myself looking on the internet, you know, and I was worried about this. And it just wasn't, you know, I don't want to spend all my time doing this. So I was thinking about the foods I ate. You know, I eat almost like a paleo type of diet, but I do eat a lot of fish and a lot of avocado and leafy greens, and I read that has a lot of copper in it. So I'm like, you know, whatever I eat isn't going to help me either, because all this talk about copper, excess copper in the body, the brain, the liver, and I couldn't help but think that was why I was feeling the way I did. And I looked up websites with people that have experienced excess copper, and the first symptom that popped up was racing thoughts and heightened levels of anxiety. So I knew at that point I had to consider getting my Paragard removed, because I didn't want to live my life in a constant state of heightened anxiety and panic. So I made an appointment to get it removed. I looked into getting another IUD, which was the Skyla. It's a lower hormone, progesterone only IUD, and very small, no copper. So I thought that would be a good alternative for me to try. I got an appointment later that following week, which at the time it felt like I couldn't wait that long to get it out, but I knew I wanted to try another IUD before I gave up on it completely. So made the appointment, got the Skyla, actually just 5 days ago, and the minute I got the IUD, the Paragard removed, I felt, probably later that day, I felt better already. I didn't have the panic, I didn't have the anxiety. felt a little more like myself. The actual